Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and it's today's Monday. It's time for me to give you guys another update here on how my last week of training went here on the bike. Now if you guys remember from last week, I told you guys that I'm basically the last 2 to 3 weeks now I've been doing more longer endurance based riding. Reasoning behind that is because I feel like long endurance is my strong suit on the bike as opposed to short duration power efforts. So I'm trying to train up more of my endurance capabilities and basically sustained power capabilities. So that's why I've made the switch over to a longer, to more longer endurance pace riding at more sweet spot kind of pace. And just to give you guys a little update on how I feel my progress has gone with that in the last couple of weeks. I do feel like I've been making some gains in terms of my sustainable power. When I first, just to kind of give you guys a little bit of background information, right now currently with my FTP set at 296 on Trainer Road, any of my 85% sweet spot intervals, I'm at a power of, I think it's 252, 251, 252, somewhere right within there, within a few watts. And when I first started doing these longer pace sweet spot interval rides, the intervals just felt a little bit more difficult than they have been recently. So I do feel like I'm gaining improvements in that longer sustainable power. But I have noticed, I have attempted, and you guys will see here when I do, I think I had one last week. I had a 4 9-minute FTP interval last week, and on the last interval I had trouble getting through it. On the last interval I had to dial back the intensity a little bit, and one time here this week also it happened to me. I feel like even though my sustainable power, I've made some improvements in my sustainable power abilities, I do feel like I've lost a little bit of my anaerobic capabilities, which I'm fine with, because like I said, ultimately I want to target longer road races and longer endurance rides. So I think building up my aerobic threshold is more important to me than having the highest anaerobic capabilities, and I can fine-tune those anaerobic capabilities when I get closer to my races. 4 to 6 weeks out from a race, or even a month out from a race even, I can go in and I can target some anaerobic, intervals and build those capabilities up just before my race. Hopefully, that's my strategy anyways. And we're going to see how it goes. So that's kind of how things have been going, just so you guys, I wanted to kind of give you guys an update right off on how I feel I'm making progress. I feel my body's adapting very well to the longer endurance rides. When I first started these, 3, 4, 4.5 hour rides, they seemed harder than they do today. So I feel like I am making progress in that regards. Although I will say I do feel like I've lost a little bit of my anaerobic capabilities because I haven't been training that the last 4 weeks. I haven't done only like one ride where I was even at FTP. So I've been pretty much staying below FTP and working on the more sustainable power. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. But I wanted to give you guys the actual breakdown of how my week went. Now this review is going to cover from March 6th through yesterday, which was March 12th. And on the 6th, I actually had a rest day. I had to work an afternoon shift on that day. So, and as you guys, I think if I told you last week, and if not, I'll tell you guys again. But what I'm doing now is on the days I have to work the afternoon shift, as opposed to, forcing myself to ride and having to ride on short rest, because I typically work out in the afternoon. Because of my work schedule, 95% of the time, I'm kind of forced to work out late in the afternoons. And if I have to, when I work these occasional, usually once a week, sometimes twice a week, I have to work an afternoon shift. And when I work that afternoon shift, in order to if I was going to get my ride in that day, I would have to ride on short rest, okay? And I would have to ride, in a situation where I wasn't able to, in my opinion, eat properly and kind of control the variables I like to control before I ride. So what I've been doing the last month or so is when I have to work those afternoon shifts is I just take the day off and I focus on recovery. I feel I just feel that if you're not in a position to give it your 100% all on the bike and have a 100% committed, enthusiastic ride, you're better off focusing on recovery. So that's where I'm at. And I had a rest day on the 6th. Now on the 7th, I actually started off my week here with Trainer Road's Baird Peak, which is basically a group ride simulation ride. There's 4 endurance intervals in here. These are long endurance intervals where you're between 85 and 95% FTP. I did a 15-minute warm-up, and as you see there, I didn't on the last interval. I had to reduce the intensity. Again, as you guys know, I don't like to make excuses on my rides. I couldn't meet the power objectives on that last interval. I think that last interval was I think it was a 21-minute long interval at pretty much at about the 1 minute and 40 mark after having already done 3 tough intervals. In those recovery valleys there, you see the dips, the lower dips. Those recoveries are pretty, I mean, you're riding at a pretty good tempo pace in the recovery. So, I mean, in this ride here, you don't really even get a true recovery interval. I like this ride. I love this ride. I'm going to try to do this ride like once a week. I think this is an awesome ride. I think this is really going to help work on sustainable power. But in this ride here, I could not meet the power objectives in that last interval. And now you guys might say, well, your FTP isn't 296, lower your FTP. And I'm not going to do that. And I'm not going to do that because your FTP, honestly, your FTP changes from day to day. I mean, one day if you're a little bit more rested or a little bit more motivated, just for, there's other factors that control this, but from day to day, your FTP is going to fluctuate a little bit. So on this ride, no, I guess I couldn't sustain 296. I guess my FTP wouldn't have been 296 on this ride. But if I was to do it a day earlier or 2 days afterwards, I may have gotten through that interval. So I don't like to just keep changing my FTP based off if I cannot make a workout, because like I said, your FTP honestly it's going to vary from day to day. You're not always going to be, okay, my FTP is 300, I'm 300 every day. One day it might be 300, one day it might be 292, one next day it might be 308. I mean, you're going to vary from day to day. So just because I couldn't get through this workout doesn't mean I'm going to go lower my FTP. I just, during the interval, when I was no longer able to sustain the power, I just dialed back the intensity to a sustainable power, to a power I could manage. And then as you see there towards the end of the interval, I got it back up to 100% and finished, the last, minute of the interval or so at the peak. So I still got, 97% of those training adaptations. I just wasn't able to hit 100% numbers. So it is what it is. I gave it my all. I didn't make it. So that was the 7th. Came back the next day, did Trainer Road Gibbs, which is a 2-hour endurance pace ride. You're basically just working in a 60 to 70% FTP endurance pace. Again, I did a 15-minute warm-up. That's pretty much my standard warm-up nowadays, is 15 minutes. That's about what I need to get myself good and warmed up on the bike and ready to go. Went roughly 44 miles or so, give or take, outdoor riding. And then later on in the evening, I did a 5-minute, 30-second plank position hold, working on my core. As you guys know, I think that core strength is really important in cycling. I think it helps me out, and I like doing these plank position holds a couple times a week. And let's see here, the 9th was another rest day for me, and again, another day where I had to work an afternoon shift. I had to work 2 afternoon shifts last week. Again, I wasn't gonna, go ride on short rest. I just took the day off, focused on my recovery. So I didn't ride on the 9th, didn't do anything on the 9th, and then came back on the 10th. I just basically did a Wahoo Kicker free ride. I basically just used my Wahoo fitness app synced it to my kicker, and I just kind of did my own ride. I did a 2.5-hour ride, just kind of mixing and matching powers, you know, working on, you know, I think, you know, I was just basically working on my, sustainable power, just working at a sweet spot level for for 2.5 hours. I went roughly 51 miles or so, give or take, if I was riding outdoors. And then on Saturday, I did Trainer Road Fletcher, which is basically a hour-and-a-half endurance ride at 65 to 75% FTP. Did my warm-up. So, and then I did another plank position hold on yesterday morning. Sunday morning, I did a plank position hold 535. Again, I like to just, every time I get through the plank position hold, I like to bump it up by about 5 seconds or so the next time I do it. So the next time I do this, I'll be looking to hit 540 and so on and so forth, and just kind of keep building up my time duration on this hold. I'll tell you what, I'm getting to the point now here at 5:35 where the last minute is like torture. Like I'm like my legs are shaking. You know, I'm like having all I can do to get the time limit, but it just, you know, that just get it done. I like to just push myself. So I'll try to push myself next time I do this ride. And then yesterday afternoon, I ended up the week here with Trainer Road's Gibbs again, doing 2 hours of aerobic endurance, 60 to 70% FTP, 15-minute warm-up. Again, I did this was kind of like a little recovery week here. I'm in a little recovery block. I haven't really decided what I'm going to do today. It'll be some kind of a, you know, endurance ride. But that's how my week went, guys. As far as my totals for the week, now last week I was up, I think I was over 15 hours on the bike, like 15.5 hours or 15 hours, something like that. This week's totals, I was at 11 hours and 223 miles roughly, 23.5 roughly, give or take. It's just an estimate, but 11 hours on the bike. So I did scale back again. I was kind of doing, I was due for a little recovery week, so I wanted to scale back my volume a little bit. I did that. I scaled back the volume, scaled back, you know, the intensity. I feel good. You know, I don't feel overly fatigued at all. I'm probably going to just get right back into the sweet spot work. So that's how my week went, guys. Leave me some comments down below. Let me know what you guys are doing. You know, do you got any races coming up? You know, what kind of training blocks are you doing? I'm interested to hear what you guys are doing, what's working for you guys. Maybe I can get some tips from you, and hopefully, you know, you guys have gotten some tips from me here on my videos. That's why I'm making these. If I can help anybody else out there, that's why I'm doing this. And also, I can certainly get some insights from you guys. So let me know what you guys are doing and how that's working for you. But again, just wanted to give you guys the quick breakdown here on how my last week went. And of course, I'll give you another update again next week. And I'll see you guys in next week's update video.